The night is cold over Privet Drive. Albus Dumbledore stands in the shadow of a hedge, watching as Minerva McGonagall transforms from tabby cat to witch in a single fluid motion. Hagrid arrives moments later on Sirius Black's flying motorcycle, cradling a bundle wrapped in blankets. Baby Harry Potter sleeps, oblivious to the scar forming on his forehead. "Are you sure about this, Albus?" McGonagall asks, her voice tight with concern. "These are the worst sort of muggles imaginable, leaving him on a doorstep." "The blood protection requires it, Minerva," Dumbledore says quietly. His blue eyes, usually twinkling, are somber behind his half-moon spectacles. Lily's sacrifice created ancient magic. As long as he can call the place where her blood dwells home, he will be protected from Voldemort in ways even I cannot replicate. But they hate magic. Petunia turned her back on her sister years ago. I know. Dumbledore's voice carries decades of weariness. Yet the charm is explicit. A blood relative must take him in. Accept him into their home. Only then does the protection seal. Hagrid gently places Harry on the doorstep. The baby stirs but doesn't wake. Dumbledore kneels beside the child, placing a letter explaining everything on the blankets. His hand hovers over Harry's forehead, fingers trembling slightly. "I've left instructions," he tells McGonagall. "The Dursleys will understand the importance of keeping him safe, of treating him with care, even if they cannot love him. And if they don't." McGonagall's Scottish burr sharpens with disapproval. "Then the protection will hold regardless. The charm is bound to blood and dwelling, not affection." McGonagall shakes her head but says nothing more. Hagrid is openly crying, his beetle-black eyes streaming tears into his tangled beard. They leave. Apparate away into the night. Dumbledore remains. He stands in the darkness for an hour, watching the door, waiting. At 2:47 a.m., the door opens. Petunia Dursley appears in a thin dressing gown, blonde hair and curlers. She looks down at the bundle on her doorstep, reads the letter in the dim porch light. Her face transforms, not with grief or compassion, but with pure, visceral disgust. "No," she says aloud. "Absolutely not. I won't have that. That freak in my home." She turns to go back inside. Dumbledore steps forward from the shadows. "Mrs. Dursley, a moment, please." Petunia shrieks and stumbles backward. "Who? What? But this child is your nephew, your blood. He needs—" "I don't care what he needs. Lily made her choice when she married that Potter man. I made mine. I have a normal family, a normal life. I won't let her freakishness destroy that." Dumbledore studies her face, searches for any hint of softening, any crack in the hatred. There is none. This woman will take Harry in because the letter frightens her, because she fears what wizards might do if she refuses. But she will never call this place home for him. She will feed him and clothe him as a duty, nothing more. And Harry will feel it. Every day of his childhood he will feel unwanted, unloved, lesser. The blood protection will exist in technical terms, but its spirit, the deep magic of sacrificial love, will be poisoned by resentment. A child raised in such an environment will not grow straight and strong. His magic will twist inward, responding to emotional deprivation the way abused children's magic always does, with volatility, suppression, or dark hungers. Dumbledore thinks of Tom Riddle, another orphan raised without love, another powerful wizard shaped by childhood neglect into something monstrous. He cannot let history repeat. "I see," Dumbledore says softly. "Then I will not force this burden upon you." What? Lily's protection was born of love. Anchoring it to hatred would be a violation of her sacrifice. He bends and gathers Harry into his arms. The baby wakes, green eyes, Lily's eyes blinking up at him. "What are you doing?" Petunia demands. "Taking responsibility. I placed Harry here believing you would choose family over fear. I was wrong. That is my mistake, not yours. Good evening, Mrs. Dursley." "Wait, what about the protection? You said—" "Lily's protection exists in Harry's blood because she died for him willingly. That magic cannot be destroyed. But it must be anchored wisely in a place where love, or at least care, can let it flourish. Privet Drive is not that place. So where will you take him?" Dumbledore looks down at Harry, who has grabbed a fistful of his silver beard and is yanking with surprising strength for an infant. "Somewhere safe," he says. "Somewhere I can watch over him personally. Somewhere perhaps even safer than your home, Mrs. Dursley. There's nowhere safer than—" "Hogwarts," Dumbledore says simply. He apparates. Petunia Dursley stands alone on her doorstep, the letter fluttering to the ground. She picks it up, reads it again, then tears it into pieces. Good riddance to bad rubbish, she thinks, and goes back to bed. She never thinks of Harry Potter again. Dumbledore appears in the entrance hall of Hogwarts Castle. The ancient stones welcome him. The wards recognize their headmaster and respond to his presence with warmth, a subtle vibration in the air that only those attuned to deep magic can feel. He carries Harry up the marble staircase, past the moving portraits who whisper and point, through corridors lit by floating candles that brighten as he passes. His office waits at the top of a spiral staircase behind a gargoyle statue. The password is Fizzing Wisby. The gargoyle leaps aside. Inside, the circular room is exactly as he left it. Spindly silver instruments on tables, Fawkes the Phoenix dozing on his golden perch, portraits of previous headmasters and headmistresses pretending to sleep. Albus, one portrait, Phineas Nigellus Black, former headmaster and noted curmudgeon, opens one painted eye. "What on earth are you doing with a baby?" "Correcting a mistake," Dumbledore says. He transfigures a bookshelf into a proper crib, with a wave of his wand, conjures soft blankets, a mobile of floating golden stars, places Harry gently inside. The baby looks around with wide green eyes, taking in the strange new environment. Then he sees Fawkes. The Phoenix wakes fully, tilts his magnificent scarlet head, regards the child with eyes older than centuries. Fawkes launches from his perch and lands on the edge of the crib. "Careful," Dumbledore murmurs. "He's only 15 months old." He leans forward and brushes his golden beak against Harry's forehead, right over the lightning bolt's scar. Then he opens his beak and sings. The song fills the office, pure, crystalline, heartbreakingly beautiful. It speaks of renewal and hope, of death that leads to rebirth, of love that transcends mortality. Harry stops crying, reaches up with one small hand to touch Fawkes's feathers. The Phoenix allows it, still singing. Dumbledore feels tears on his cheeks. "You approve, then?" Fawkes trills a note that sounds like yes. "Thank you, old friend." The portraits are fully awake now. Armando Dippet clears his painted throat. "Albus, while we all appreciate your compassion, you cannot raise a child in your office. It's completely inappropriate. I'm aware. I'll need to create proper living quarters, somewhere secure, private, but still within the castle's protections. The headmaster's tower," suggests Dilys Derwent, a former healer. "The suite hasn't been used since Everard's time, but it connects to your office through the portrait passage. It could be converted." "Excellent suggestion, Dilys. I'll begin modifications tomorrow." "Modifications tonight," Phineas says dryly. "That child needs a proper nursery, not a conjured crib in an office full of dangerous artifacts." Dumbledore smiles. "You're right, of course." He works through the night. The headmaster's tower suite is dusty and neglected, but the bones are good. 3 large rooms with vaulted ceilings, tall windows overlooking the grounds, a fireplace that connects to the flue network. Dumbledore transforms it methodically. The first room becomes a nursery, soft rugs over stone floors, walls painted in warm colors that shift with the light, protective wards woven into every surface. He conjures toys that respond to accidental magic safely, blocks that stack themselves, stuffed animals that purr and move. The second room becomes a study for when Harry is older, bookshelves filled with age-appropriate texts on magic and Muggle subjects both, a desk sized for a child, a pensieve built into an alcove for future memory lessons. The third room becomes Dumbledore's own sleeping quarters when he stays here instead of his private rooms elsewhere in the castle. A simple bed, wardrobe, and desk. Nothing elaborate. By dawn, it's ready. He carries Harry up from the office, Fawkes riding on his shoulder, places the sleeping child in the new crib, which is carved from pale wood and enchanted to rock gently when Harry stirs. "There," Dumbledore whispers. "Welcome home, Harry Potter." He sits in a conjured armchair beside the crib, exhaustion washing over him. Fawkes settles on the headboard, keeping watch. "I may be making another terrible mistake," Dumbledore says quietly to the Phoenix. "I told myself once that I should not hold power, that the greatest wizards are those who never seek it. Yet here I am, claiming guardianship of the most famous child in our world, planning his education, shaping his future. I failed, Aberforth. I nearly destroyed everything I loved because I wanted glory, wanted to remake the world for the greater good." Dumbledore's voice breaks. "What if I fail Harry too? What if I mold him into a weapon against Voldemort? What if I lose sight of the child in pursuit of the prophecy?" The Phoenix trills softly, hops down from the headboard to Dumbledore's shoulder, nuzzles his cheek. "You think I can do better this time?" Fawkes sings a single note, clear and certain. "Then I shall try, but you must help me, old friend. When I drift toward old patterns, when I start planning for the greater good instead of Harry's good, you must stop me." They sit together in the nursery as sunrise paints the stone walls gold. Harry sleeps, safe and protected, while Fawkes' song fills the air with gentle warmth. The next morning, Dumbledore calls an emergency staff meeting. Minerva McGonagall arrives first, striding into his office with barely contained fury. "Albus Dumbledore, what in Merlin's name were you thinking? Taking Harry from his relatives without consultation? Sit down, Minerva, please. Let me explain." She sits, lips pressed into a thin line. The other professors filter in. Filius Flitwick, Pomona Sprout, Severus Snape, even Rubeus Hagrid, who technically isn't staff but has been crying since he learned Harry wouldn't be at the Dursleys. When everyone is assembled, Dumbledore speaks. "I made a decision last night that affects us all. Harry Potter will not be living with his aunt and uncle. He will be living here, at Hogwarts, under my personal guardianship." Silence, then chaos. You can't be serious. Raise a child in a castle full of students. The blood protection requires... Dumbledore raises one hand. "The blood protection," he says carefully, "requires that Harry be taken in by Lily's blood relative and call that place home. Petunia Dursley made it abundantly clear last night that while she might house Harry out of fear or obligation, she would never provide him a home. Her hatred of magic is absolute. Placing Harry there would be technically correct but spiritually wrong. So you chose to abandon the protection entirely?" Snape's voice is cold as winter. "Lily's sacrifice will be anchored here. To Hogwarts itself. The charm requires specific conditions. The charm requires a home bound by blood and love. I am proposing to weave the protection into Hogwarts' existing wards, keying them specifically to Harry's presence. The castle becomes his home, the wards become his shield, and I..." Dumbledore's voice softens. "I become his family, such as I am." Flitwick leans forward, squeaking thoughtfully. "Theoretically possible. Hogwarts' wards are among the oldest and most complex in Britain. If you could convince the castle to accept Harry as one of its own, to recognize him as a permanent resident rather than a temporary student, yes, I suppose Lily's protection could root here." "Exactly, Filius. I spent the remainder of last night performing the necessary rituals. The castle has accepted Harry. He is now woven into Hogwarts at a foundational level, as long as he considers this his home, and I will ensure he does. The protection will hold." "What about when he leaves?" Sprout asks. "Students go home for summer. He can't stay locked in the castle for 17 years. Though I hope to arrange safe outings as he grows, carefully warded excursions, supervised by trusted allies. But his primary residence will be Hogwarts." "Yes, you're taking responsibility for raising the boy who lived, personally, while also serving as headmaster of this school." "Yes. Have you considered how this will affect your duties? How it will look to parents, to the ministry, to..." "I have considered everything, Minerva, and I have concluded that Harry's well-being outweighs all other concerns. If the Board of Governors objects, I will step down as headmaster and raise him elsewhere. If the ministry investigates, I will prove the wards are superior to any Muggle safe house. And if parents complain," his eyes harden behind his spectacles, "then they may complain. Harry needs protection and family. I can provide both." Snape stands abruptly. "This is madness. The boy is Lily's son, yes, but he is also James Potter's. You would raise that arrogant bullying. Harry is 15 months old. He is neither James nor Lily. He is himself. And if you cannot separate your feelings about his parents from your duty to protect him, then I will excuse you from any involvement in his care." Snape's black eyes flash. "I made a vow to protect Lily's son. Then do so, without prejudice, without transferring your hatred of James onto an innocent child." They stare at each other. Finally, Snape sits. "I will not love the boy," Snape says coldly, "but I will protect him for her." "Little Harry? Can I see him?" Dumbledore smiles gently. "He's asleep in the Tower Suite. You may visit whenever you like, Hagrid. In fact, I was hoping you might help with his care. You have a way with young creatures." "I'd be honored, Professor." The meeting continues. They discuss logistics, house elves to help with feeding and changing, a medical schedule with Madame Pomfrey, security protocols to prevent students from wandering into the headmaster's tower. By the time they adjourn, it's decided. Harry Potter will grow up at Hogwarts. Minerva lingers after the others leave. "Albus," she says quietly, "I hope you know what you're doing." "I don't," he admits. "But I know what I'm not doing. I'm not leaving a child to suffer in a loveless home. I'm not repeating my mistakes with Ariana. I'm not pursuing the greater good at the expense of an innocent life." She softens slightly. "You're thinking of your sister. Always. What happened to Ariana haunts me, Minerva. The attack that broke her mind, the years she spent locked away because we couldn't control her magic, the duel that killed her." He removes his spectacles and cleans them, a gesture he uses to hide emotion. "I told myself once that I should never have power, because I cannot be trusted with it. Yet here I am, the most powerful wizard in Britain, responsible for shaping the most famous child in our world. You're also older, wiser, more cautious, am I? Or am I simply terrified of making the same mistakes in a different form?" He replaces his spectacles. "I suppose time will tell, when he's old enough to understand what I've done." Minerva leaves. Dumbledore returns to the tower suite. Harry is awake, sitting up in his crib and reaching for Fawkes, who has remained on guard. The phoenix extends one wing so Harry can grab individual feathers. "Good morning, Harry," Dumbledore says. The child looks at him and smiles. It's such a simple thing, a baby's smile, but it fills Dumbledore with warmth he hasn't felt in decades. Perhaps he thinks this is what redemption looks like. Not grand gestures or defeating dark lords, but raising one small child with love and care. Perhaps this is his second chance. Harry's early childhood unfolds in the headmaster's tower, insulated from the wider wizarding world but rich with magic. His first word is faw. His first accidental magic happens at age 2. Levitating blocks to stack themselves while Dumbledore reads aloud from the tales of Beedle the Bard. Dumbledore doesn't scold or suppress this. Instead, he teaches Harry to feel the magic, to notice when it rises in response to his emotions. "Magic is part of you, Harry," he explains, even though Harry is far too young to fully understand. Like breathing, it wants to help you, but it needs guidance. Do you feel it? Right here? He places a gentle hand over Harry's chest. Harry nods seriously, green eyes wide. "Good. When you feel it getting excited, take a deep breath, like this." Dumbledore demonstrates. The magic will listen. It's teaching occlumency without calling it that. Building awareness of internal states, creating the foundation for mind discipline that will matter years later. By age 3, Harry can sit through pensive demonstrations. Dumbledore carefully curates the memories. His first meeting with Nicholas Flamel, a peaceful conversation with a younger McGonagall about transfiguration theory, a sunset viewed from the astronomy tower. "Why are we going into your head?" Harry asks, holding Dumbledore's hand as they descend into silvery memory mist. "Because memories are how we learn from the past, Harry. They help us understand what came before so we can make better choices in the future." They watch young Dumbledore and Flamel discussing the properties of dragon's blood over tea. When the memory ends and they resurface in the office, Dumbledore asks, "What did you notice?" "You were younger and you smiled a lot." "I did. I was happy then. I had just discovered something important about magic, and I was sharing it with a friend. Do you know what made me happiest?" Harry shakes his head. Not the discovery itself, but having someone to share it with. Magic is wonderful, Harry, but it's even better when we use it to help others or learn together. These gentle lessons accumulate. Harry absorbs them like a sponge. Magic is a tool, not a toy. Power requires responsibility. Knowledge should be shared. Friendship matters more than achievement. Dumbledore teaches with stories more than lectures. He tells Harry about the 4 founders of Hogwarts, turning history into bedtime tales. Godric Gryffindor becomes the brave knight who valued courage above all. Helga Hufflepuff becomes the kind healer who believed everyone deserved a chance. Rowena Ravenclaw becomes the wise scholar who asked questions no one else thought to ask. Salazar Slytherin becomes the complicated figure who did great things but let fear poison his judgment. "Was Slytherin bad?" Harry asks one night. "Not at first," Dumbledore says carefully. "He was brilliant and ambitious, but he let his fear of muggles turn into hatred. Fear is natural, Harry. But when we let it control us, when we use it to justify hurting others, that's when we become lost. Like Voldemort?" Harry learned the name from portraits who whispered when they thought he wasn't listening. "Yes," Dumbledore says quietly. "Like Voldemort, he was once a boy named Tom Riddle who was very afraid. Afraid of death, afraid of being weak, afraid of not mattering. Those fears made him do terrible things. Did you know him? I taught him, a long time ago. Did you try to help him? Dumbledore closes his eyes briefly. Yes, but I failed. I saw his brilliance and his potential, but I didn't see his fear clearly enough. I didn't realize how deeply it had rooted until it was too late. It is, which is why I'm telling you now. Fear is not shameful, Harry. Everyone is afraid of something. What matters is what we do with that fear. We can let it make us cruel, or we can face it and grow stronger. Harry considers this seriously. I'm afraid sometimes. Of what? That you'll go away, like my mum and dad did. Dumbledore's heart breaks. He pulls Harry into a hug. I won't leave you, Harry. Not by choice. I promise. September 1987. Dumbledore sits in the tower that houses the Quill of Acceptance and Book of Admittance, a small, locked chamber accessible only to the headmaster. The quill hovers over the book, which rests open on a stone pedestal. When a magical child is born anywhere in Britain, the quill attempts to write their name. If the book accepts the inscription, the child is admitted to Hogwarts when they turn 11. Dumbledore has been visiting this chamber regularly for months, watching an unusual pattern. The name Hermione Jean Granger has appeared and reappeared 7 times in the past 6 months. Each time the book glows brighter than usual, as if the magic it detects is particularly strong or controlled. Curious, Dumbledore murmurs. He pulls up records maintained by the enchanted system. Each inscription correlates with a specific magical event. The first was levitation, a book from a high shelf. The second was mending, a broken toy repaired perfectly. The third was targeted transformation, changing the color of a flower. Most magical children produce random bursts, windows exploding during tantrums, accidental vanishing of unwanted vegetables, wild levitation when frightened. Hermione Granger's magic is precise, controlled, purposeful, and she's only 7 years old. A prodigy, Dumbledore says aloud. He thinks of Harry, who at 6 is already showing remarkable magical intuition. Harry can feel when Dumbledore is about to cast a spell, can sense the emotional residue in pensive memories, can calm Fawkes with nothing but his presence. But Harry's gifts are intuitive, emotional, reactive. What Dumbledore sees in Hermione's pattern is analytical, intentional, systematic. Harry needs a counterweight, Dumbledore thinks. Someone who thinks differently, who questions where he trusts, who plans where he acts. Someone who can share this burden. He makes his decision. 3 weeks later, Dumbledore stands on the doorstep of a neat suburban home in North London. Helen Granger opens the door, blinking in surprise at the tall, eccentric-looking man in purple robes, covered in stars. Mrs. Granger, my name is Albus Dumbledore. I'm the headmaster of a prestigious boarding school in Scotland. I wonder if I might speak with you and your husband about your daughter Hermione. How do you know Hermione? I've been observing her progress through, shall we say, educational monitoring systems. She's extraordinarily gifted. I'd like to discuss an opportunity. Helen Granger is a dentist, practical and skeptical by nature. But there's something about this old man, something in his kind eyes and gentle voice, that makes her invite him in. David Granger joins them in the living room. Dumbledore sits in an armchair, conjures tea with a wave of his hand. Helen gasps and begins to explain. Magic is real. Your daughter is a witch, and she's one of the most naturally talented young witches I've encountered in decades. The Grangers stare at him. What? David manages. Dumbledore demonstrates, levitates the teapot, transfigures a cushion into a cat, which meows and rubs against Helen's leg before transforming back, conjures golden sparks that dance through the air. Hermione has been doing similar things, hasn't she? Small things, perhaps, books moving on their own, broken items mending themselves, things appearing or disappearing when she's emotional? Yes, Helen whispers. We thought we were imagining it, or that she was, I don't know, playing tricks somehow. She's not. She's magic. And under normal circumstances, she would receive a letter on her 11th birthday inviting her to attend Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. But I'm here to offer something different. He explains the Special Prodigy Program, a fabrication but a useful one. Early admission for exceptionally talented students. Individualized education starting at age 7. Full funding. Regular visits home. Why Hermione? David asks. There must be hundreds of magical children. Thousands. But very few demonstrate the level of control and curiosity that Hermione already shows. Most magical children her age produce random bursts of power. Hermione's magic is targeted. That suggests an extraordinary mind, one that would benefit from early, structured education. She's 7 years old. I know, and I promise you she would be perfectly safe. The school is protected by wards, magical defenses, that make it one of the safest places in Britain. She would live in a secure, supervised environment, receive both magical and traditional education, and visit you regularly during holidays. Helen and David exchange glances. Could we see the school? Helen asks. Of course. The next day, Dumbledore brings them to Hogwarts via portkey, a teapot that glows blue, and whisks them from the Granger living room to the entrance hall. The castle takes their breath away. Moving staircases, portraits that talk and argue, ghosts drifting through walls, and everywhere, the sense of deep magic thrumming through ancient stone. Dumbledore shows them the classrooms, the great hall, the library. Then he takes them to the headmaster's tower. Harry is there, reading a book about dragons that adjusts its illustrations to show the creatures in motion. He looks up when they enter. Harry, these are Mr. and Mrs. Granger. And this, Dumbledore gestures to a small girl hiding behind her mother, is Hermione. Harry closes his book and stands politely. Hello, I'm Harry Potter. Hermione stares at him. You're the boy who lived. I'm just Harry, he says, sounding like he's repeated this many times. Do you want to see my phoenix? Fawkes is perched near the window. He trills a greeting. Hermione steps forward cautiously. He's beautiful. He's nice too. You can touch him if you're gentle. She reaches out, Fawkes leans into her touch, warbling softly. Harry grins. He likes you. That means you're good. Hermione looks at her parents with shining eyes. Mum, Dad, can I stay here, please? Helen Granger is crying. David has his arm around her. They know their daughter is special. They've always known. And as much as it terrifies them to send her away at age 7, they can see the wonder in her eyes, the hunger for knowledge, the instant connection with Harry. What would the arrangement be exactly? David asks. Dumbledore explains. Hermione would live in the Tower Suite during term time, receiving lessons from him and select professors. She'd spend summers and major holidays at home. She'd learn magic alongside traditional subjects, mathematics, literature, sciences. She'd be safe, supervised, and given opportunities no other 7-year-old in Britain could access. And she wouldn't be alone, Dumbledore adds. Harry has been here since he was 15 months old. He needs a friend, someone his age who can share this extraordinary education. Tearfully, but they agree. 1 week later, Hermione Granger moves into the headmaster's tower with a trunk full of books and a stuffed otter named Reginald. Harry helps her unpack. Do you like reading? Hermione asks, setting books on the shelf Dumbledore conjured for her. Sort of. Professor Dumbledore reads to me a lot. Stories about history and magic and stuff. I've already read all my school books for this year. Do you think the library here has more? Harry laughs. The library has thousands of books, maybe millions. You'll love it. They bond over books and magic, and Fawkes, who perches between their beds at night singing them both to sleep. Dumbledore watches from the doorway, smiling. Two prodigies, two very different minds. Together they'll balance each other, and perhaps together they'll be strong enough to face whatever darkness the future holds. The morning after Hermione arrives, Dumbledore gathers both children in the tower study. Before we begin your magical education properly, he says, settling into a high-backed chair while Harry and Hermione sit cross-legged on cushions, we must establish a rule. You will not use wands until you are 11 years old. Hermione's hand shoots up. Why not, Professor? An excellent question. Tell me, Hermione, when you learn to write, do you start with a quill or with your fingers tracing letters in sand? Fingers first, then pencil, then pen. Exactly. A wand is a tool that focuses and amplifies magical intent. But if you learn to rely on the tool before you understand the intent itself, you develop bad habits. You cast without thinking. You wave instead of willing. Harry nods. He's heard this before. You have to learn to listen before you learn to speak. Precisely, Harry. Magic is a conversation between your will and the world. The wand makes that conversation louder, but it doesn't make it clearer. Clarity comes from within. Dumbledore stands and walks to the center of the room. With a gesture, 3 white feathers appear, floating at eye level. Your first lesson, levitation without wands. Not the spell Wingardium Leviosa, which you'll learn at Hogwarts, but true levitation asking the feather to rise through intention alone. How? Hermione asks, already leaning forward with intense focus. Close your eyes, both of you. Feel your magic. It lives here. He touches his chest. It responds to emotion, to need, to desire. But it also responds to calm focus. Breathe deeply. In, out, in, out. Feel the magic moving with your breath. They breathe. The room falls silent except for the soft sounds of inhalation and exhalation. Now, without opening your eyes, imagine the feather in front of you. See it in your mind, not just its shape, its weight, its texture, the way air moves around it. Make it real in your thoughts. Harry's brow furrows with concentration. Hermione's breathing slows to an almost meditative rhythm. Good. Now ask it, not command, ask to rise. Just a little, an inch. Feel your magic reaching out like a gentle hand beneath it. Minutes pass. Harry's feather trembles, lifts half an inch, wobbles, drops. Excellent, Harry. You felt it, yes? The connection between your intent and the feather's movement? It was hard, like trying to lift something with my mind when my mind isn't strong enough. That's exactly right. Your mind, your will, is a muscle. It strengthens with practice. Hermione, try again. Hermione's face is scrunched with effort. Her feather hasn't moved yet. Don't force it, Dumbledore says gently. You're trying to command instead of invite. Magic doesn't respond well to demands. It prefers requests. Try thinking, please rise. I need you to rise. Help me understand how this works. Hermione adjusts her approach. Her breathing deepens. And slowly, so slowly, her feather lifts. 1 inch, 2 inches, 3. Then it drops. Hermione's eyes snap open. I did it. Did you see? I saw. Beautifully done. You sustained it longer than Harry on your first attempt, though Harry achieved lift faster. Different strengths, both valuable. Pebbles become books. Books become furniture. By age 8, Harry can levitate himself 3 feet off the ground for 10 seconds before his concentration breaks. Hermione can levitate multiple objects simultaneously, moving them in complex patterns like a juggler. You feel magic differently, Dumbledore observes during one session. Harry, you use broad strokes, powerful but less precise. Hermione, you use fine control, exact but requiring more sustained effort. Neither is superior. They complement each other. He demonstrates by having them work together. Harry provides the raw lifting force to levitate a heavy chest, while Hermione guides it precisely through a narrow doorway. Together, Dumbledore says, you achieve what neither could alone. Remember this: power without precision is destruction. Precision without power is limitation. But power and precision together, that is mastery. Dumbledore's office becomes their laboratory. He teaches fire by conjuring flames in his palm. Blue, red, white, each temperature visible and controlled. Fire is will made manifest, he explains. It consumes, transforms, illuminates. Watch. He lets the flame grow, then shrink, then split into multiple smaller flames that dance across his fingers. Feel the heat, not with your skin, with your magic. Can you sense how the fire wants to spread, how it hungers? Your job isn't to fight that hunger, but to give it direction. Harry reaches toward the flame. Dumbledore guides his hand close enough to feel warmth without burning. Now you try. Don't conjure fire that requires a wand and incantation. Instead, ask the heat in the air to gather, focus it, convince it to become visible. It takes weeks, but eventually Harry produces a flicker, a brief spark that appears and vanishes. Hermione's approach is different. She reads everything she can find about combustion, thermal energy, magical fire theory. When she finally produces her spark, it's because she understands the precise magical frequency required to excite air molecules into ignition. 2 paths to the same destination, Dumbledore says proudly. Harry learned by feeling, Hermione learned by understanding. Both brought you to fire. Water lessons happen in the bathroom, where Dumbledore fills the enormous tub and teaches them to move water without touching it. Water is adaptability, he says. It takes the shape of its container but maintains its essential nature. It can be soft as mist or hard as ice. Can you feel the difference? They practice making ripples, then waves, then columns of water that rise and twist. Air lessons happen on the astronomy tower, where wind is abundant. Air is freedom and voice, Dumbledore teaches. It carries sound, scent, seeds, It cannot be held, but it can be guided. Breathe deeply. You're pulling air into your lungs. You already control it. Now push that control outward. Hermione learns to still the wind around them, creating pockets of perfect calm. Earth lessons happen in the grounds, where Dumbledore shows them how to sense the magic in living stone and soil. Earth is foundation and growth, he says, kneeling to press his palm against the ground. Everything builds from earth. Everything returns to it. Feel the stability, the patience. Earth magic doesn't rush. They learn to sense vibrations through the ground, to understand the difference between living soil and dead stone, to feel where water flows beneath the surface. None of this is standard Hogwarts curriculum. This is ancient magic, elemental theory that most wizards never study. But Dumbledore believes they need it, not for combat, though it will help there, but for understanding, for seeing magic as more than spells and wands, for recognizing the deep patterns that underlie all magical practice. When they turn 8, Dumbledore introduces them to his private laboratory, a room adjoining the office that most Hogwarts students never see. Glass vessels line the shelves, alembics, retorts, crucibles. Ingredients fill labeled jars: powdered moonstone, essence of dittany, purified mercury, philosopher sulfur. Alchemy, Dumbledore says, lighting burners with a gesture, is the marriage of magic and transformation. It asks, what is the essential nature of a thing? How can we change it while respecting that nature? What can base matter teach us about ourselves? He shows them the classic demonstration, lead into gold, not the full transformation that requires knowledge and power beyond their years, but a symbolic version, a lead weight placed in a solution that slowly takes on golden shimmer as the magical process works. We're not truly creating gold, Dumbledore explains. We're revealing the gold that exists in potential within all matter. Everything contains everything else, on a deep enough level. Alchemy teaches us to see those connections. She fills notebooks with observations, temperatures, ingredient ratios, the color changes in solutions. Harry is less interested in the notation, but deeply engaged with the feeling, the sense of matter shifting, responding, transforming under their attention. This is how Nicholas Flamel created the Philosopher's Stone, Dumbledore tells them when they're 9. Not through force or shortcuts, but through understanding. He spent decades learning to see the unity in apparent diversity, to recognize that life and death, matter and energy, self and other, these are all part of one continuous process. I collaborated with him, yes. We published several papers together on the nature of dragon's blood and its 12 principal uses. Nicholas taught me that the greatest discoveries come not from seeking power, but from seeking truth. Where is he now? Hermione asks. Living quietly with his wife Perenelle in France. The stone is hidden safely away. We'll discuss it more when you're older. It's relevant to your history, Harry. Because Voldemort wanted it? They know the name now, have heard it from portraits and Hagrid and occasional staff discussions. He's been honest about the threat Voldemort represents, about how Harry survived, about the prophecy that binds them, but always age-appropriately, always with context, never with fear. Yes, Dumbledore says quietly. Voldemort sought the stone because he fears death above all things. That fear made him do terrible things. Remember that, both of you. Alchemy teaches transformation and acceptance. Dark magic teaches domination and rejection. The difference defines the wizard. The pensieve becomes their most frequent teaching tool. Every week, Dumbledore selects memories for them to explore together. Not his own painful ones, not yet. Those will come when they're older, when they can handle the weight of his failures. Instead, he shows them Memory 1, meeting Nicholas Flamel, 1899. Young Dumbledore, barely 20, sits in a Parisian cafe across from an elderly wizard with merry eyes. They discuss the properties of dragon's blood, sketching diagrams on napkins, laughing when a theory proves wrong. When they emerge from the memory, Dumbledore asks, "What did you notice?" "You were happy," Harry says. "You listened more than you talked," Hermione adds, "even though you probably knew as much as he did." Excellent observations both. I was learning that the greatest teachers aren't those who display their knowledge like trophies. They're those who ask questions that make you think. Nicholas asked me questions I'd never considered. He made me smarter by letting me discover answers instead of handing them to me. Memory 2. A difficult choice, 1920. Dumbledore is a young teacher at Hogwarts, standing in the headmaster's office of Armando Depet. A student has been caught with a dark artifact. Expulsion is recommended. Young Dumbledore argues for a second chance, shows evidence that the student was influenced, not malicious, proposes supervision and education instead of punishment. Dippet agrees. What did Professor Dippet risk by trusting you? Dumbledore asks when they resurface. His authority, Hermione says. If the student hurt someone later, everyone would blame him. Yes, leadership means accepting responsibility for others' choices. Trusting people means risking that they'll betray that trust. But the alternative, never trusting anyone, leads to tyranny. Remember that when you face leadership decisions? Memory 3, A Failure, 1943. Tom Riddle as a student, brilliant and charming, asking Dumbledore about Horcruxes. This memory Dumbledore shows them when they're 10, old enough to understand its importance. They watch young Dumbledore deflect the question, clearly uncomfortable. Watch Tom's expression harden with determination. Watch the conversation end with mutual wariness. I failed here, Dumbledore says when they emerge. I saw Tom's brilliance, but not his damage. I saw his questions, but not his hunger. I should have addressed his fear of death directly, talked to him about loss, about meaning, about legacy beyond immortality. Instead, I shut down the conversation and hoped he'd drop it. He didn't, Harry says quietly. No, he pursued Horcruxes in secret. And by the time I understood what he'd done, it was too late to save him from himself. Dumbledore's voice is heavy with old grief. This is why I share my failures with you, not to burden you with guilt you don't deserve, but to show you that even the wisest wizards make mistakes. What matters is learning from them. Harry's scar hurts sometimes. Not often. The Horcrux fragment is contained by Hogwarts' wards and Dumbledore's protective enchantments. But occasionally, when Voldemort's spirit stirs in distant Albanian forests or when dark magic is performed nearby, Harry feels sharp pain behind his forehead. The first time it happens, age 8, during a summer thunderstorm, Harry wakes screaming. Dumbledore is there in seconds, Fawkes already winging to Harry's bedside. It's the scar, Harry gasps. It burns. I know, my boy. Breathe. Look at me. You're safe. Fawkes lands on Harry's pillow and begins to sing. The song is pure and clear, washing over Harry like cool water. The pain doesn't vanish immediately, but it dulls, becomes bearable. The scar connects you to Voldemort, Dumbledore explains gently, sitting on the edge of Harry's bed. Not by choice. He marked you when he tried to kill you. Sometimes, when he experiences strong emotion or uses powerful magic, you feel echoes of it. The pain will lessen as you learn to shield your mind. That's called occlumency, the art of protecting your thoughts and emotions from outside influence. Fawkes' song helps because Phoenix magic is fundamentally opposed to the dark magic in your scar. His presence soothes it. From that night forward, Fawkes sleeps on the headboard of Harry's bed, and Dumbledore begins teaching Harry mind palace techniques. Close your eyes, he instructs during their next lesson. Imagine your mind as a room, any room you like. What does it look like? Harry thinks. Like the tower study, with lots of shelves. Perfect. Now imagine your thoughts as objects on those shelves. Memories are books, emotions are colored lights, current worries are papers on the desk. Can you see it? Yes. Good. This is your mind palace. When the scar hurts, I want you to retreat here. Organize your thoughts. Put the pain in a box on a shelf. Acknowledge it, but don't let it control you. Then focus on something else. A happy memory, Fawkes' song, my voice. Can you try? They practice for months. By age 9, Harry can construct detailed mind palaces. He fills them with memories of reading with Dumbledore, flying, Hagrid takes him on gentle broom rides over the grounds, playing chess with Hermione. When the scar pain comes, he retreats, organizes, breathes. The pain still hurts, but he's not controlled by it. This is early occlumency, Dumbledore tells him. Most wizards don't learn this until they're adults, but you need it now. The connection to Voldemort is dangerous. It could let him influence your thoughts if left undefended. Your mind palace is your fortress. Keep building it. Hermione learns too, though she doesn't have a scar. Dumbledore teaches her because mental discipline is valuable for everyone, and because if something happens to him, Hermione needs to be able to help Harry maintain his shields. Her mind palace is a vast library with infinite shelves, perfectly organized, color-coded. Very Hermione. The painted headmasters and headmistresses become unexpected teachers. Phineas Nigellus Black offers lessons in pureblood politics, and the importance of strategy over sentiment. "The world isn't fair, children," he says from his frame. "Idealism is lovely, but power respects power. If you want to change things, you must first survive them. Learn to play the game." Dilys Derwent teaches healing philosophy and the ethics of medical magic. "Every spell that can heal can also harm," she explains. "A cutting curse can perform surgery. A sleeping draught can become poison in the wrong dosage. Intent matters more than the magic itself." Armando Dippet shares stories of maintaining peace during Grindelwald's rise. "I compromised when I shouldn't have," he admits. "I thought keeping Hogwarts neutral was wise. But neutrality in the face of evil is complicity. Sometimes you must take a stand even when it costs you." Everard offers tactical advice about magical dueling and defensive positioning. Dexter Fortescue discusses the nuances of magical law and why rules exist. Together, they create a chorus of contrasting philosophies, some conservative, some progressive, some emphasizing caution, others boldness, some prioritizing individual freedom, others collective safety. Dumbledore never tells Harry and Hermione which portraits are right. Instead, he asks questions. Phineas says power respects power. Armando says neutrality enables evil. Can both be true? When do we compromise and when do we fight? How do we know? These discussions happen over dinner, during walks on the grounds, in quiet moments before bed. Harry and Hermione learn to think critically, to question authority, even Dumbledore's, to recognize that wisdom often lives in the tension between opposing truths rather than in absolute certainty. By the time they're 11, they've received an education unlike any other students in Britain. They can levitate objects without wands, manipulate fire, water, air, and earth through pure intent, navigate pensive memories and extract ethical lessons, construct mental shields against intrusion, debate philosophy with painted historical figures, brew basic alchemical preparations, sense magic in their environment. They haven't cast a single wand-based spell yet, but they understand magic more deeply than most adult wizards. Platform 9 3/4 bustles with families. Parents hug children. Owls hoot from cages. First years gape at the scarlet Hogwarts Express. Then the crowd parts. Albus Dumbledore walks through wearing midnight blue robes embroidered with silver stars. His presence commands instant attention, not through force, but through sheer weight of reputation. Beside him, Harry Potter, age 11, wearing simple black robes. His lightning bolt scar is visible beneath messy black hair. Green eyes, Lily's eyes, scan the platform with curiosity rather than nervousness. And beside Harry, Hermione Granger, also 11, in robes identical to Harry's. Her bushy brown hair is pulled back with a blue ribbon. She carries a book under one arm. Students and parents stare. Is that Harry Potter with Professor Dumbledore? Who's the girl? Ron Weasley, standing with his mother and brothers, can't tear his eyes away. "Mum, is that really Harry Potter? Why's he with the headmaster?" "I don't know, dear," Molly says, looking as confused as everyone else. Dumbledore escorts Harry and Hermione directly to the train. They don't board like normal students. Instead, they walk past the prefect's carriage to a small compartment near the front reserved for staff. "You'll ride with the other students this year," Dumbledore says, "but this compartment connects to the staff car if you need anything. Professor McGonagall will be aboard. She knows where to find you." "We'll be fine, Professor," Hermione says confidently. "I know you will, but humor an old man's caution." He smiles. "Enjoy your first train ride. Make friends. Be yourselves." He leaves them at the compartment door. Harry and Hermione exchange glances. "Should we sit with other students?" Harry asks. "We're supposed to make friends." "Let's try the normal carriages first. If people are weird about it, we can come back here." They walk through the train, passing compartments full of students. Whispers follow them. "That's him. Lived with Dumbledore, I heard. Wonder if he's arrogant." They find a compartment with one occupant, a red-haired boy eating chocolate frogs. "Can we sit here?" Harry asks. Ron Weasley nearly chokes. Yeah, sure. I'm Ron Weasley, Harry Potter. This is Hermione Granger." "I know who you are," Ron says, then flushes. "I mean, everyone knows. You're famous. You defeated you-know-who." "I was a baby," Harry says, sitting down across from Ron. "I didn't defeat anyone. I just survived." "Still, that's brilliant." Ron offers them chocolate frogs. "Want one?" They take them. The conversation flows more easily after that. Ron is friendly and funny, if a bit odd. He asks about living at Hogwarts, about Dumbledore, about what it's like being famous. Harry deflects most questions. Honestly, it's just been normal for me. I've lived there since I was little. Professor Dumbledore is, well, he's family, I guess. Family? Ron echoes. He raised me, taught me magic, took care of me. So, yeah, family. Neville Longbottom joins them, looking for his toad. Hermione helps find it using a summoning charm she learned from Flitwick during one of the professor's visits to the tower. Wait, you can do magic already? Neville asks, amazed. We've been learning since we were 7, Hermione says. Though nothing with wands until this year, Professor Dumbledore is very strict about fundamentals first. Word spreads through the train. Harry Potter and Hermione Granger can already do magic. Real magic. Not just reading ahead in textbooks, but actual spell work. By the time they reach Hogsmeade, half the first years are intimidated and the other half are fascinated. The boats cross the Black Lake under starlight. Hagrid calls out greetings as he shepherds first years into boats. When he sees Harry and Hermione, his face splits into an enormous grin. Harry, Hermione, look at ye both, all grown up and ready for sortin'. They know Hagrid well. He's been a constant presence in their childhood, bringing creatures to show them, telling stories, teaching Harry to fly on gentle practice brooms. The castle rises before them, magnificent and familiar. For Harry and Hermione, it's homecoming. For the other students, it's first sight of magic incarnate. McGonagall meets them in the entrance hall, stern and commanding in her emerald robes. First years, follow me. You'll wait here. She indicates a small chamber. Before the sorting, Potter, Granger, a word. McGonagall's expression softens minutely. The headmaster asked me to remind you, tonight, you're students first, not wards of the staff, not residents of the tower. Students. That means you'll be sorted with your peers and sit at your house table like everyone else, understood? Yes, Professor, they say in unison. Good, though I suspect you'll both end up in Gryffindor regardless. She almost smiles. You have your parents' courage, Harry. And Miss Granger, you've absorbed quite enough boldness from your association with our headmaster. But instead of walking in from the back with the other first years, McGonagall guides Harry and Hermione through a side entrance, directly to the staff table. The hall goes silent. Every student, from first years to 7th years, stares as Harry Potter and Hermione Granger emerge from behind the staff table and take seats beside Professor Dumbledore. Good evening, Dumbledore says to them quietly. How was the train? Fine, Professor, Harry says. We made friends. Excellent. You'll join them shortly at your house tables. But I wanted you here for the opening feast, to remind everyone that Hogwarts is your home as much as any students. The sorting begins. Names are called alphabetically. Abbott, Hannah, becomes Hufflepuff. Oot, Terry, goes to Ravenclaw. Whispers ripple through the hall. Why are Potter and Granger at the staff table? Do they even get sorted? Maybe they're already in a house? Finally, Granger, Hermione stands, walks from the staff table to the stool in front of everyone. The hat settles over her bushy hair. Inside her mind, the sorting hat's voice is dry and amused. Well, well, Miss Granger, the headmaster's ward. This is highly irregular. I just want to be where I can help people, Hermione thinks. Where I can use what I've learned. You could help people brilliantly in Ravenclaw. Your mind is extraordinary. You've already mastered theory most 7th years struggle with. But I don't want to just think about helping. I want to actually do it. I want to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. That's Gryffindor courage talking, learned from Dumbledore, no doubt. And from Harry Potter, who you've grown up beside. Is that wrong? Not at all. It's just interesting you have the capacity for any house. But you're choosing Gryffindor not because it's easiest, but because it aligns with your values. That, Miss Granger, is the mark of someone who will do great things. So, Gryffindor. The Gryffindor table erupts in cheers. Hermione walks to join them, sitting near the middle. More names. Longbottom Neville goes to Gryffindor. Malfoy, Draco to Slytherin without the hat even pausing. Then, Potter, Harry. Harry stands, walks from the staff table, where he's been sitting between Dumbledore and McGonagall like he belongs there, to the stool. Every eye in the hall tracks him. The hat descends. Ah, the hat says. Harry Potter, I've been waiting 11 years to sort you. Let me see. What do you see? Harry asks. Brilliance. Power barely contained. A mind trained by Albus Dumbledore himself. Layered, shielded, far more disciplined than any 11-year-old I've encountered in centuries. You could go anywhere, Harry Potter. I want to go where Hermione is. Loyalty. Interesting. Not to a house or ideal, but to a person. That's Hufflepuff's essence. She's my friend. We've learned together. We're better together than apart. You're also cunning. You understand power and politics better than most adults. You've learned from Phineas Nigellus. I can see his influence in your thoughts. Slytherin would sharpen that edge. I don't want to be sharp. I want to be good. Good? Professor Dumbledore taught us that power without goodness is just another form of darkness. I want to use what I've learned to protect people, to stand against dark wizards like Voldemort. Not for glory or power, because it's right. That, young Harry, is Gryffindor through and through. Your parents would be proud. Gryffindor. The hall explodes. The Gryffindor table is pandemonium. Prefects standing and cheering. Students pounding the table. Fred and George Weasley chanting, "We got Potter! We got Potter!" Harry walks to sit beside Hermione. They exchange small smiles. Ron Weasley, sorted moments later, joins them at Gryffindor table and immediately leans over. That was mental. You sat at the staff table. We live there, Harry explains. We've been at Hogwarts for years. Professor Dumbledore is our guardian. Both of you? Hermione's been with us since she was 7. But yes. The sorting concludes, Zabini, Blaise, ends up in Slytherin. Dumbledore stands for his welcome speech. His eyes twinkle behind half-moon spectacles. Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts. I have only a few announcements before we begin our feast. The Forbidden Forest remains forbidden to all students, though Mr. Potter and Miss Granger have special dispensation due to their unique circumstances. The third-floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to anyone who does not wish to die a most painful death. Harry and Hermione exchange glances. They know about that corridor. Dumbledore told them he's hiding something important there. The Philosopher's Stone, to keep it from Death Eaters who might seek it for Voldemort's return. And now, let the feast begin. Food appears on golden platters. At the Gryffindor table, Harry and Hermione are immediately surrounded by curious students. Is it true you can already do magic? What's Dumbledore like to live with? Why aren't you with your real families? Harry fields questions patiently. My parents died when I was a baby. Professor Dumbledore took me in. He's been my guardian ever since. And yes, we've been learning magic since we were young. But nothing with wands until now. Tonight's our first time actually attending Hogwarts as students. That's brilliant, says a girl named Lavender Brown. You're like junior professors or something. We're students, Hermione corrects firmly. We just happen to live in the headmaster's tower. We're here to learn like everyone else. How can Harry and Hermione be just students when they sit at the staff table during the sorting, when they've been trained personally by Dumbledore for years, when they clearly know more magic than anyone else in their year? By the end of the feast, Harry and Hermione have been marked as different, not in a hostile way. Most students are fascinated rather than resentful, but different nonetheless. At the staff table, Severus Snape watches Harry with conflicted emotions warring across his usually impassive face. Lily's eyes. Lily's son. Raised by Dumbledore, not tortured by muggles, he doesn't know whether to be relieved or furious. Dumbledore had explained years ago, Severus, I need you to tutor Harry and Hermione in potions and defensive theory starting this year. I know it's difficult given your history with James, but these children need the best teachers, and you, despite your protests, are one of the finest potions masters in Britain. Snape had agreed, grudgingly, out of duty to Lily's memory. But seeing Harry in the flesh, confident, well-adjusted, surrounded by friends, is harder than he anticipated. This is what Lily's son could have been if she had lived. The ache is almost unbearable. After the feast, McGonagall leads the first-year Gryffindors to the tower, but when they reach the portrait of the fat lady, she turns to Harry and Hermione. You two, you know where you're going? Yes, Professor, Harry says. We'll show the others where Gryffindor Tower is, then head up to our rooms. Make sure the first years learn it. She leaves. Harry and Hermione stand in front of the portrait. This is where you'll live, Harry tells the other Gryffindor first years. The common room is through here. Boys' dormitories are up those stairs, girls up those. Your trunks are already in your rooms. Where do you live? Neville asks. The headmaster's tower. It's connected to the castle through a separate staircase and portrait passage. Can we visit? Ron asks. Harry and Hermione exchange glances. Maybe, Hermione says carefully. We'll have to ask Professor Dumbledore. The tower has security wards because that's where a lot of important magical artifacts are kept. The first years file into Gryffindor Tower, still buzzing with excitement and questions. Harry and Hermione head in the opposite direction, navigating corridors they've known their whole lives. They reach the portrait that conceals the entrance to the headmaster's tower, a painting of Merlin standing before Stonehenge. Phoenix rising. Harry says the portrait swings open. They climb the spiral staircase to the tower suite. Dumbledore is waiting in the study with Fawkes on his shoulder. How was your first feast as official students? He asks. Interesting, Harry says. People stared a lot. We're different from them, Hermione adds. They don't know how to treat us. As students, as staff, as something else. You are students, Dumbledore says firmly, who happen to have an unusual background. That will make some things harder, fitting in, being seen as peers rather than oddities. But it will also make some things easier. You have knowledge and skills your classmates won't develop for years. Use that wisely. We will, Professor. Good. Now off to bed. You have your first classes tomorrow. I believe you're starting with Transfiguration with Professor McGonagall? They nod. Excellent. She's looking forward to seeing what you can do. As am I. They head to their rooms, still in the tower suite, still the same beds they've slept in for years. But something has shifted. They're Hogwarts students now. Not just Dumbledore's wards, not just children living in a tower. Students, with all the expectations, challenges, and opportunities that entails. The first month of classes reveals the gulf between Harry, Hermione, and their classmates. Transfiguration with Professor McGonagall. On their very first day, McGonagall demonstrates turning her desk into a pig and back. Transfiguration is some of the most complex and dangerous magic you will learn at Hogwarts, she says sternly. Anyone messing around in my class will leave and not come back. You have been warned. She transforms into her tabby cat form and back, earning gasps from the first years. Now, who can tell me the 3 principles of basic transfiguration? Hermione's hand shoots up. So does Harry's. McGonagall blinks, slightly taken aback. Miss Granger, the caster must clearly visualize the desired form, understand the function of both original and target objects, and maintain absolute focus throughout the transformation to prevent partial or unstable changes. 10 points to Gryffindor. Exactly correct. Mr. Potter, can you explain why visualizing the form matters? Because transfiguration works at every level, molecular, structural, functional. If you only picture the surface, you might create something that looks right but isn't actually stable or whole. Like turning a match to a needle but not changing the wood to metal properly, so it looks like a needle but burns like wood. Another 10 points. That's precisely the kind of incomplete transformation that causes the most problems. How do you both know this? Professor Dumbledore taught us foundational theory, Harry explains. No wands, just understanding. He said we needed to know what we were doing before we learned how to do it. Very wise. Let's see if you can apply that theory. The assignment is to turn a match into a needle. Wands out. By the end of class, Hermione has produced a perfect silver needle. Harry's is 90% complete. The point is still faintly wooden in texture. Every other student has produced matches that are shinier, slightly pointier, or completely unchanged. McGonagall awards them both 20 points and keeps them after class. I've been teaching Transfiguration for 30 years, she says quietly. I've never had first years produce functional transformations on day 1. Never. What exactly has Albus been teaching you? He wanted us to understand magic deeply before we started casting. It shows. You'll both be helping me tutor struggling students by November at this rate. She pauses. How do you feel about that being so far ahead of your peers? Harry and Hermione exchange glances. Weird, Harry admits. We're trying to fit in, but everyone treats us like we're different. Potter. The question is whether you use that difference to help or to separate yourselves. I trust you'll choose wisely. Flitwick demonstrates Wingardium Leviosa, making a feather float in precise circles. The wand movement is this: swish and flick. And remember, it's Leviosa, not Leviosae. Students practice. Most produce nothing. A few make their feathers twitch. Harry lifts his feather smoothly, controlling it through 3-dimensional space with the precision of someone who's been levitating objects without a wand for 4 years. Hermione makes hers dance, rising, falling, spinning, tracing patterns in the air. Flitwick squeaks with delight. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. 20 points each. You've both mastered this already. Ron, sitting next to Harry, manages to make his feather roll across the desk. How are you doing that? He asks, frustrated. Feel the magic in your chest, Harry says quietly. The wand just focuses it. You're not making the feather float, you're asking it to. Gently, like you're helping it instead of forcing it. His feather rises an inch. Brilliant, Harry grins. That's it, you felt it, right? Yeah, it was weird. Like breathing but outside my body. By the end of class, Ron and several other students near Harry and Hermione have made progress. Flitwick notices, asks Harry and Hermione to stay back. You're both natural teachers, he says, beaming up at them from his stack of books. The way you explained the feeling to Mr. Weasley, that's intuitive understanding most adult wizards never develop. Would you consider running a study group, helping your classmates? We'd be happy to, Professor, Hermione says. Potions with Professor Snape. This one is complicated. Snape sweeps into the dungeons on their first potions lesson, black robes billowing. Expression severe. His opening speech is familiar to anyone who's heard it. Fame isn't everything, subtle science and exact art, stopper death and bottle fame. Then his eyes find Harry. He pauses mid-sentence. Something flickers across his face. Pain, anger, longing, all suppressed instantly. Potter, he says quietly. Our new celebrity, it's complicated. Weighted with history Harry understands intellectually, but can't fully grasp emotionally. I'm not a celebrity, Professor, Harry says. I'm just a student. Snape's tone is unreadable. Tell me, Potter, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? Harry knows this. Dumbledore taught them potion theory from age 8. The draught of living death, sir. A powerful sleeping potion. Snape's expression doesn't change. Where would you look if I told you to find me a bazaar? It's a universal antidote to most poisons. And the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane? Also called aconite. It's used in the wolfsbane potion that allows werewolves to keep their minds during transformation. The classroom is silent. Snape stares at Harry for a long moment. Then, quietly, it seems Albus has taught you more than parlor tricks. We'll see if you can apply that knowledge practically. 1 point to Gryffindor for correct answers. 1 point, not 10 or 20, but coming from Snape to a Gryffindor, it might as well be 50. The lesson proceeds. They're brewing a simple potion to cure boils. Harry and Hermione produce perfect results. Their potions are the exact shade of blue specified, steam rising in gentle spirals, consistency optimal. Snape inspects their cauldrons without comment, bottles a sample from each, moves on. After class, he stops them at the door. Potter, Granger, a word. Snape waits until they're alone. You will both report to my office every Tuesday and Thursday evening at 7 o'clock for additional instruction. This is not optional. The headmaster has requested that I provide you with advanced tutoring in potions and defensive theory. Yes, sir, they say in unison. Do not be late. Do not be unprepared. And do not, his eyes bore into Harry, expect favoritism because of your connection to Albus. In my classroom and in these tutorials, you are students. Nothing more. We understand, Professor, Hermione says. Snape dismisses them with a curt nod. Outside in the corridor, Harry exhales. That was intense. He hates you, Hermione observes. But also doesn't? It's strange. Professor Dumbledore explained some of it. Snape loved my mum, was friends with her before Hogwarts. But my dad bullied him when they were students. So seeing me is complicated for him, for everyone involved. Yeah. But Professor Dumbledore says Snape is one of the best potions masters in Britain and a brilliant defensive wizard. If he's willing to teach us, we should learn everything we can. The first Tuesday session, they arrive at Snape's office precisely at 7. The room is dark, lined with shelves of ingredients and preserved specimens in jars. A single lamp illuminates a workbench where 3 cauldrons wait. You're punctual, Snape says without preamble. Good. We begin with fundamentals. Dumbledore may have taught you theory, but theory without rigorous practical application is useless. Tonight, the strengthening solution. Brew it. I will critique every mistake. Snape circles like a shark, watching every movement. Granger, your stirring is too enthusiastic. Strengthening solution requires gentle incorporation, not aggressive mixing. You'll denature the salamander blood. Potter, your knife work is adequate but inefficient. Dice the griffin claw smaller. Uniform pieces ensure even dissolution. He's merciless but fair. Every criticism is accurate. Every correction improves their technique. By the end of the 2-hour session, both have produced acceptable strengthening solutions. Better, Snape says grudgingly. You both have talent. Granger, you follow instructions with precision. Potter, you have intuition for when a potion is about to turn. Different strengths. Both valuable. Thank you, Professor, Hermione says. Snape's lips thin. Don't thank me. Thank Albus for forcing me to waste my evenings on remedial tutoring when you should already know this if he'd taught you properly. But there's no real heat in it. And when they leave, Snape bottles samples of their potions with something that might almost be approval. Thursday sessions focus on defensive theory. Dumbledore has taught you occlumency, Snape says during their first lesson. Mind arts that most wizards never master. But occlumency, without understanding its application in combat, is incomplete. Sit. Legilimency is not mind reading. It's emotional interpretation and memory detection. A skilled legilimens can sense lies, detect hidden thoughts, and in extreme cases, extract specific memories. Your defense is occlumency, organizing your mind so that surface thoughts protect deeper ones. Professor Dumbledore taught us mind palaces, Harry says. Good. Show me. Harry closes his eyes, constructs his mental fortress, the tower study with thoughts organized on shelves, emotions as colored lights, painful memories locked in boxes on high shelves. Snape casts legilimens non-verbally. Harry feels the intrusion, a foreign presence probing at his mind. His shields hold. Snape retreats. Adequate, Snape says. Your structure is sound, but you broadcast your defense. A skilled attacker would sense where your shields are strongest and probe elsewhere. You need subtlety. He teaches them to layer defenses, create false surface thoughts that seem accessible while hiding true intentions deeper. Maintain shields without obvious mental effort. In combat, Snape explains, legilimency can predict your opponent's next move. If you can sense their intent a half-second before they cast, you can counter. But if they sense you reading them, they'll feed you false intentions. This is the dance of mind arts, reading and misdirection in equal measure. How to brew NEWT. Dash-level potions under pressure. How to sense the emotional state of potential attackers through passive legilimency. How to maintain occlumency shields during physical stress. How to recognize dark magic by its signature. Texture in. The magical field Snape never warms to them, but he teaches rigorously, and they improve dramatically. By November, Harry can brew Felix Felicis under Snape's guidance, though it still requires 6 months to mature. Hermione can identify 40 different dark curses by their magical residue alone. One evening in mid-December, Dumbledore calls them to his office. I need to discuss something important, he says, settling behind his desk while Fawkes preens on his perch. Something I've kept from you until now, waiting for the right moment. I believe you're ready. Harry and Hermione sit in the chairs across from him, attentive. The third-floor corridor I mentioned in my welcome speech, it's not randomly dangerous. I'm protecting something there. The Philosopher's Stone. He explains, Nicholas Flamel's legendary creation produces the elixir of life, transmutes base metal to gold, worth more than all the treasure in Gringotts combined. It was kept in Gringotts until this summer, Dumbledore continues, but there was an attempted robbery. We had to move it somewhere safer. I chose Hogwarts. Because the wards here are stronger, Hermione says. Precisely, but also because I could design protections myself, with help from the staff. Protections that are educational in nature. Harry's eyes narrow. Educational how? I've designed the protections as a series of challenges. Each one tests a different skill. Magical knowledge, physical courage, strategic thinking, ethical choice. They're meant to keep the stone safe, yes, but they're also meant to test worthiness. Why are you telling us this? Hermione asks. Because I want you to attempt them. Not to steal the stone, you couldn't if you tried, thanks to a final protection involving the Mirror of Erised, but to test yourselves, to see if your training holds up under real pressure. You want us to break into a secured vault as a training exercise? Harry says slowly. I want you to attempt a controlled challenge under supervision. Professor Snape and I will shadow you under disillusionment charms. You'll never be in true danger. But you also won't know we're there. The challenge must feel real for the test to be valid. What if we fail? Hermione asks. Then you learn where your training falls short and we address those gaps. What if you succeed? Then we learn we're ready for real threats when they come. Dumbledore's expression is serious. I'm not sending you into this blindly. I've designed each challenge with your specific skills in mind. Devil's Snare tests your knowledge of herbology and calm under pressure. Flying Keys test your aerial agility. Wizard's Chess test strategy and sacrifice. The Troll... Wait, there's a troll? Harry interrupts. Professor Quirrell contributed a mountain troll, yes, though it will be unconscious for your attempt. The final challenges test potion making, and, as I mentioned, the Mirror of Arise tests your heart. When would we attempt this? Hermione asks. After the Christmas holiday, January 2nd, when most students haven't returned yet. You'll have 2 days to plan and prepare. I'll provide you with a map of the challenges and explain the rules. Then you'll attempt them with only each other for support. Harry and Hermione exchange glances. This is what they've been training for. Not this specific challenge, but challenges in general. Tests of skill, courage, and ethics under pressure. We'll do it, Harry says. I thought you might. Dumbledore smiles. But there's one more thing you need to know. The reason I'm protecting the stone so carefully. Voldemort is not truly gone. The temperature in the room seems to drop. His body was destroyed when he tried to kill you, Harry, but his spirit survived. He's out there somewhere, weak, bodiless, desperate, and he wants the stone. If he obtains it and brews the elixir of life, he can restore himself. That's the real threat. So the protections aren't just a test, Hermione says quietly. They're a real defense against a real enemy. If you two trained, prepared, warned in advance can't get through them, then Voldemort in his weakened state certainly can't. But if you find flaws, we'll fix them before he tries. It's brilliant strategy. Use a controlled test to stress test real defenses. Learn from students who will point out weaknesses honestly because they're not trying to actually steal anything. We'll take it seriously, Harry promises. I know you will. Now, go enjoy your holidays. When you return, we'll begin preparations. They spend 2 days studying Dumbledore's maps and notes. The protections are Fluffy the three-headed dog, Hagrid's contribution, guards the trapdoor, Devil's Snare, Professor Sprout catches anyone who falls through. Flying Keys, Professor Flitwick, must catch the correct key to unlock the next door Wizard's Chess, Professor McGonagall, must win to proceed. Mountain Troll, Professor Quirrell, unconscious for their test. Potion Logic Puzzle, Professor Snape, 7 bottles, only one allows forward progress. Mirror of Eriside, Dumbledore. Final Guardian, 7 challenges, Hermione says, making notes. Each requires different skills. Hagrid's tests courage and magical creature knowledge. Sprout's tests herbology and calm. Flitwick's tests flying and spatial awareness. McGonagall's tests strategy. Quirrell's would test combat, but it's disabled. Snape's tests logic and potion knowledge. Dumbledore's tests purity of intent. That's the one I don't understand, Harry admits. How does a mirror protect the stone? Dumbledore said only someone who wanted to find the stone but not use it could retrieve it from the mirror. It's a moral test. If you're greedy or power-hungry, the mirror won't give it to you. But we don't actually want the stone at all. We're just testing the defenses. Then, theoretically, we should pass that test easily. January 2nd arrives cold and clear. Most students are still on holiday. The castle is quiet. Harry and Hermione meet Dumbledore in his office at dawn. Ready? He asks. Yes, sir, they say. Remember, this is a test, but treat it as real. I'll be watching, as will Severus, but we won't intervene unless you're in genuine danger. If at any point you feel overwhelmed, say Phoenix Rising aloud, and we'll extract you immediately. Understood? And Harry, Hermione, I'm proud of you both, regardless of the outcome. They head to the 3rd floor corridor. Challenge 1, Fluffy. The massive 3-headed dog fills the room, each head the size of a boulder. He's awake and growling. Harry steps forward slowly, hands visible, projecting calm. Hello, Fluffy, he says gently. Remember me? I visit with Hagrid sometimes. One head, the middle one, stops growling, cocks to the side. We need to get past you. We're not here to hurt you or take anything that belongs to you. We're just students doing a lesson. Can you let us through? Fluffy whines. All 3 heads look uncertain. Hermione pulls out a small flute Hagrid lent them. Music soothes him, right? She plays a simple melody, not expertly, but recognizably. Fluffy's heads droop. Within moments, all 3 are snoring. They lift the trapdoor and drop through. Challenge 2, Devil's Snare. They land in the writhing tendrils of Devil's Snare. The plant immediately wraps around their arms and legs, pulling tight. Don't panic, Hermione says, forcing herself to breathe calmly. Devil's Snare hates light and warmth. We need fire. Harry closes his eyes, reaches for the elemental training Dumbledore taught them. Fire is will made manifest. Heat is transformation. He focuses on his palm, asks the air molecules to excite, to ignite. A flame appears, small but bright enough. The Devil's Snare recoils, releasing them. They drop to the floor below. That was brilliant, Hermione gasps. Wandless fire, barely. But it worked. Challenge 3, Flying Keys. A room full of flying keys, fluttering like birds. One door, one lock. Hundreds of keys. The right one will be old and silver to match the lock, Hermione observes. But they're all flying too fast to catch easily. Harry mounts one of the provided broomsticks. I'll chase, you direct. He launches into the air with the confidence of someone who's been flying since age 6. The keys scatter, but he's faster. There, Hermione points. Big silver one with a bent wing. Harry dives. Catches it in a tight spiral that would make a professional seeker jealous. Lands and unlocks the door. Challenge 4. Wizard's chess. The chess set is enormous. Pieces as tall as they are, carved from stone. I'm terrible at chess, Harry admits. I'm decent, Hermione says. But this is McGonagall's design. It won't be easy. They take positions. Harry is a bishop. Hermione is a castle. The white pieces move aggressively, forcing sacrifices. Hermione plays cautiously at first, then realizes the game punishes caution. McGonagall's lesson is clear. Sometimes you must sacrifice to win. Harry, I need you to let the queen take you. It's the only way to open a path to checkmate. Are you sure? Yes. Trust me. Harry steps into position. The White Queen smashes his piece, knocking him to the floor. He rolls, winded but uninjured. The pieces pull their strikes. Hermione makes her final move. Checkmate. The White King drops his sword in surrender. Challenge 5, Mountain Troll. As promised, the troll is unconscious. They step over it carefully. This would be terrifying if it were awake, Harry mutters. Challenge 6, Potion Logic. 7 bottles on a table. A scroll with a riddle. Hermione reads it aloud. A logic puzzle. Not magic, pure reasoning. 3 are poison, 2 are wine. 1 allows forward progress, 1 allows retreat. She works through the clues methodically, eliminating possibilities. This one, the smallest bottle, lets us go forward. They each take a sip. It's enough for both of them. Challenge 7, Mirror of Irestide. The final chamber holds only a mirror. Tall, ornate, with an inscription, Areist stra eru oit ube kafru oit on woshi. I show not your face but your heart's desire, Hermione translates the backwards text. Harry steps in front of the mirror. He sees himself, but older, standing between Dumbledore and his parents, who are alive and smiling. Hermione is there too. They're all together, safe, happy. His heart aches. Then something shifts. In the reflection, his older self is holding something, a red stone. I see the stone, Harry says quietly. In the mirror, my reflection is holding it. Because you want to find it but not use it, Hermione realizes. You're not greedy for power. You just want to complete the challenge, so the mirror shows you succeeding. Harry reaches into his pocket and finds weight there that wasn't before. He pulls out the philosopher's stone. It worked. He breathes. The protection worked. Behind them, Dumbledore and Snape shimmer into visibility as their disillusionment charms drop. Well done, Dumbledore says softly. Very well done indeed. They return to Dumbledore's office. Fawkes trills a congratulatory note. You passed every challenge, Dumbledore says, settling behind his desk. Some through knowledge, some through courage, some through strategy. The Devil's Snare tested your ability to stay calm under physical threat. The Flying Keys tested your coordination. The chess tested your willingness to sacrifice for greater good. And the mirror tested your heart. The challenges worked, Hermione says. If we could get through with preparation and planning, someone without those advantages couldn't. Exactly my conclusion. Though I'm going to add secondary protections to several challenges based on what I observed. You handled Devil's Snare beautifully, but someone with more powerful fire magic could simply burn through. I'll add anti-fire wards. The chess game should be more difficult. You won in 12 moves. I'll recalibrate the pieces to Grandmaster level. What about the mirror, Harry asks. That's the real protection, isn't it? Even if someone gets through everything else, they can't get the stone without the right intentions. And that protection is foolproof. I tested it extensively. Only someone who wants to find the stone but not use it can retrieve it. Anyone seeking power, immortality, or wealth will see themselves achieving those things in the mirror, but never actually obtain the stone. Snape speaks for the first time. The Potter boy used wandless fire against the devil's snare. That's fifth-year material at minimum. Professor Dumbledore taught us elemental magic without wands, Harry explains. Fire, water, air, earth, basic manipulation through intent and understanding. Of course he did, Snape says dryly. Why teach age-appropriate magic when you can accelerate their education dangerously? They were supervised, the exercises were graduated carefully, and both demonstrated the necessary control before advancing. Harry's wandless fire is weak, barely enough to warm tea, but it's sufficient for a devil's snare, which proves the utility of fundamental training. Snape subsides, but his expression remains skeptical. Now, Dumbledore continues, we must discuss something more serious. I designed this test for multiple reasons. First, to validate the protections. Second, to challenge you both under controlled conditions. But third, to prepare you for what comes next. Voldemort, Harry says. Yes, he will return eventually. Maybe not this year, maybe not next, but he will try. And when he does, you need to be ready. Not to face him alone, that would be foolish and I would never ask it, but to recognize the signs, to defend yourselves, to help defend others. We'll be ready, Hermione says firmly. I believe you will, but I also need you to promise me something. If you ever feel I'm pushing too hard, asking too much, treating you as weapons instead of children, tell me. Hold me accountable. I've made terrible mistakes in my past by prioritizing the greater good over individual welfare. I don't want to repeat those mistakes with you. Dumbledore, the greatest wizard alive, asking two 11-year-olds to check his judgment. We promise, Professor, Harry says. Good. Then we'll continue as we have been. Training, yes, but also friendship, learning, and childhood. Your students first. Phoenix heirs second. Phoenix heirs, Hermione echoes. Dumbledore smiles. A title I'm trying out. You're both connected to Fawkes through your time in the tower. Both trained in transformation and renewal. Alchemy's core principles. Both committed to rising from the ashes of loss to create something better. Phoenix heirs seemed appropriate. Harry and Hermione exchange glances, then smile. We like it, Harry says. Second year begins normally enough. Harry and Hermione return to classes, now even more advanced than their peers. McGonagall has them helping tutor first years. Flitwick uses them as demonstration assistants. Snape remains gruffly professional in their tutorials. Then, in mid-October, something changes. Harry notices it first during breakfast. Ginny Weasley, Ron's younger sister, sorted into Gryffindor this year, sits at the far end of the table staring at her plate without eating. She looks tired, Harry observes to Hermione. Lots of first-years struggle with adjustment, Hermione says. But she looks closer, though you're right, she's very pale. Over the following week, Harry keeps noticing Ginny. She seems distracted, jumpy. And there's something else. Something he can't quite identify but makes his mental shields twitch. During a quiet evening in the tower, Harry mentions it to Dumbledore. There's something wrong with Ginny Weasley. I don't know what exactly, but when I'm near her, my occlumency shields react. Like there's foreign magic around her. Dumbledore sets down his book immediately. Foreign magic? Describe it. It's hard to explain. You taught us to sense magical signatures, how everyone's magic feels different. Ginny's feels normal, mostly. But sometimes there's this other texture, like someone else's magic is touching her, or living on her. Show me, in the pensieve, your memory of the sensation. Harry pulls the memory of that morning at breakfast, sitting 3 seats down from Ginny, feeling his shields prickle when she reached for toast. The sensation of alien magic, subtle but distinct. They enter the memory together. Dumbledore studies Ginny's aura with the heightened awareness memory viewing allows. There, he says, pointing. Do you see it? The shimmer around her hands? Harry looks closer. Yes, a faint darkness that isn't shadow, like oil on water, creating rainbow distortions. What is it? Possession magic. Someone or something is influencing her. Not fully controlling, but feeding on her perhaps, or using her as a vessel for its own magic. We need to investigate this carefully. If Ginny is being possessed, the source must be an object she carries or uses regularly. Severus and I will observe her discreetly. You and Hermione watch for patterns. When does the foreign magic seem strongest? What is she carrying or doing when you sense it? Over the next week, they observe. Harry notices the alien texture is strongest when Ginny is writing, specifically writing in a particular black diary she carries everywhere. He reports this to Dumbledore. A diary, Dumbledore murmurs. Curious. May I see your memory of her using it? Harry provides another memory. Ginny in the common room, writing in the diary. The book seems to absorb her ink faster than normal, and when she writes, the alien magic flares brighter. The diary is responding to her, Dumbledore says. It's not a simple journal, it's interactive, possibly sentient. Like a person trapped in a book, Hermione asks? She's been included in the investigation. Or a memory preserved in one. This has all the hallmarks of very dark magic. The kind that anchors consciousness to objects. He doesn't say horcrux yet, but Harry can see he's thinking it. We need to examine the diary, Dumbledore says. But we can't simply take it from her. If it's possessive, removing it suddenly could cause psychological harm. We need her cooperation. He calls her to his office, offers her lemon drops, asks how she's adjusting to Hogwarts. I've been having strange dreams, Ginny admits quietly, and losing time. I'll be in the common room and then suddenly I'm in a corridor and hours have passed and I don't remember walking there. Do you know when this started? After I started writing in my diary? I found it in my cauldron before term started. Someone must have slipped it in at Flourish and Blots. I thought it was just a blank journal, but when I wrote in it, it wrote back. It wrote back? Dumbledore's tone is carefully neutral. What did it say? Friendly things. It said its name was Tom Riddle, and it was a memory preserved from 50 years ago. It knew all about Hogwarts. It helped me with homework, listened when I talked about my problems. It was nice to have someone who understood. I'm sure it was, Ginny. May I see this diary? I'd like to examine it. I promise to return it, but I need to ensure it's not causing your lost time and strange dreams. Ginny hesitates, then reaches into her bag and pulls out the small black book. The moment it's in Dumbledore's hands, his expression hardens. Thank you, Ginny. You may return to your dormitory. I'll speak with you soon about what I find. After she leaves, Dumbledore summons Snape, Harry, and Hermione. This, he says, placing the diary on his desk with unusual care, is a horcrux. A what? Harry asks. A fragment of soul anchored to an object. The darkest magic imaginable. It requires murder to create. The act of killing splits the soul, and dark rituals can then separate that fragment and bind it to an item. The result is a piece of consciousness that survives even if the body dies. Voldemort, Hermione breathes. This is a piece of Voldemort's soul. I believe so, yes. Tom Marvolo Riddle was Voldemort's name before he transformed himself. This diary is likely one of several horcruxes he created to achieve immortality. How do we destroy it? Harry asks. Basilisk venom is one of the few substances that can destroy a horcrux, but we don't have access to a basilisk. The alternative is fiend fire, but that's too dangerous to use in the castle. Or, Dumbledore's expression turns thoughtful, we attempt something new, an alchemical dissolution. Combining methods, Hermione says, catching on, basilisk venom theory, phoenix tears, flamel-style transmutation. We separate the soul fragment from the vessel symbolically and let the conflicting magics destroy each other. It's experimental, but it's safer than fiend fire and more controlled than stabbing a diary with a basilisk fang we don't possess. The setup takes 3 days. A silver basin engraved with alchemical symbols representing separation and purification. A solution combining purified mercury, base element of transformation, powdered moonstone, absorbs dark magic, essence of dittany, healing properties, and 3 drops of phoenix tears from Fawkes. The diary floats in the center of the basin. The theory, Dumbledore explains, is that we're not destroying the Horcrux through brute force. We're offering the soul fragment a choice: remain bound to the object and dissolve with it, or separate and dissipate freely. Either way, the anchor is broken. Hermione takes detailed notes. Harry watches, fascinated. Dumbledore begins the ritual, speaks in Latin, words about separation, about the true self versus the fragment itself, about returning what was stolen to its rightful place. The liquid in the basin begins to bubble. The diary writhes, pages flapping like wings. Then a scream, high and cold and terrible, echoes through the laboratory, coalescing into a ghostly figure. Tom Riddle at 16, handsome and venomous. You cannot destroy me, the memory shouts. I am Lord Voldemort. I am immortal. You are a fragment, Dumbledore says calmly, "A echo of a whole that was shattered by murder and fear. I offer you peace. Release yourself from this binding and disperse, or cling to your prison and dissolve with it. Choose." The riddle shade flickers. For a moment, something like uncertainty crosses its face. Then it snarls and lunges at Harry, drawn by the connection of the scar, seeking a new host. Fawkes intercepts. The phoenix flies directly through the shade, singing. His song is pure fire and renewal, the antithesis of Horcrux magic. The shade screams and dissipates like smoke and wind. The diary in the basin crumbles to ash. The solution turns from murky gray to clear silver. Silence. "It's done," Dumbledore says quietly. "The Horcrux is destroyed. The soul fragment is gone. Ginny is free." Harry sags with relief. Hermione is already writing notes about the process for future reference. Snape, who observed from the doorway, speaks. "That was remarkably dangerous, Albus. If the shade had successfully possessed Potter, Fawkes would not have allowed it. Phoenix magic and Horcrux magic are fundamentally incompatible. The moment the shade tried to enter Harry, Fawkes intervened. As I knew he would. You gambled on the loyalty of a bird. I trusted the nature of Phoenix magic and the bond between Fawkes and Harry. There's a difference." Snape shakes his head but doesn't argue further. Ginny recovers rapidly once the diary is destroyed. Her nightmares stop. Her color returns. She remembers nothing of the possession except vague unease. Dumbledore doesn't tell her what the diary truly was, only that it was cursed and has been destroyed. No need to burden a 12-year-old with knowledge of Horcruxes, but he does tell Harry and Hermione everything. Voldemort created multiple Horcruxes, he explains in the tower one evening. I suspected after Harry's encounter with Quirrell, but the diary confirms it. A wizard doesn't anchor his soul to a single object when seeking immortality. Too easy to destroy. He creates backups. "How many?" Hermione asks. "I don't know, but I have theories the diary is one. There may be others connected to Hogwarts founders. Voldemort was obsessed with the school's history, and there's a possibility." He hesitates, looking at Harry. "That you, Harry, carry a fragment unintentionally." Harry goes very still. "What?" "The way you speak parcel tongue, ability that runs in Slytherin's line, not the Potter's. The pain you feel when he's near or using dark magic. These all suggest that when Voldemort's curse rebounded, a fragment of his fractured soul latched onto the only living thing in the room. You." Harry's hand rises unconsciously to his scar. "I'm a Horcrux. You carry a fragment, yes. But you are not a Horcrux. You are a person who houses one. There's a profound difference. A Horcrux is an object that exists to preserve a soul fragment. You are a human being who happens to have been marked by dark magic against your will. Can you remove it, the same way we destroyed the diary? I don't know yet. Your situation is unique. The fragment is anchored to living flesh, not inanimate matter. The alchemical dissolution we used on the diary might work, but it might also harm you. I need to research, to consult with Nicholas Flamel, to find a way to separate the fragment without destroying the vessel. How long will that take? Months, possibly years. This is delicate work, Harry. I won't risk your life by rushing." Hermione has been silent, processing. Now she speaks. "If Harry carries a fragment and we destroyed the diary, how many are left? But we'll hunt them systematically. This is our mission now, finding and destroying Voldemort's anchors before he can return fully, though I prefer to think of you as healers. We're curing the world of a poison Voldemort introduced. Piece by piece, we'll make him mortal again." Third year brings Sirius Black's escape from Azkaban. But in this timeline, Harry and Hermione are not afraid. They investigate. "Why would my godfather escape now?" Harry asks Dumbledore. "After 12 years, the official story is that he's coming for you, to finish what Voldemort started. But that doesn't make sense. Sirius was my parents' secret keeper. If he betrayed them, why wait 12 years to come after me?" An excellent question. They use the pensieve. Dumbledore provides memories of the Potter's final year. James and Lily discussing the Fidelius charm, debating who should be secret keeper. In one memory, James says, "Sirius is the obvious choice, but that makes him the obvious target. What if we use Peter instead? No one would suspect Wormtail. Sirius can be a decoy." They switched, Hermione realizes. Peter Pettigrew was the real secret keeper, not Sirius. "So I believed at the time," Dumbledore says. But Sirius was arrested at the scene where Peter died. Witnesses reported that Sirius laughed. The evidence seemed clear. Evidence can be manipulated, Harry argues, especially if Peter was a Death Eater who faked his death. That's possible, right? Animagi can escape? Yes. If Peter were an unregistered animagus, we should check the registry, Hermione says immediately. They do. Peter Pettigrew is not listed, but the Marauders were famous for their animagus forms. It's in old school records, though technically illegal since they never registered. Peter was a rat, Harry says, remembering stories Dumbledore told him about his parents' friends. If he transformed and faked his death, he could have hidden anywhere. Anywhere like Hogwarts, Hermione suggests. Hidden among the hundreds of rats that live in a castle this old. They bring their theory to Dumbledore. He's skeptical but intrigued. If you're right, this is a catastrophic miscarriage of justice. But proving it requires finding Peter alive. How would you suggest we do that? Animagus detection spell? Hermione says. There's one in advanced transfiguration theory. It makes animagi glow in their animal form. That spell requires ministry authorization to use on humans. But we're not using it on humans. We're using it on rats, to check for, say, an infestation of magically enhanced vermin. Dumbledore's lips twitch. A clever loophole, Miss Granger. They perform the spell during a Hogsmeade weekend when most students are out of the castle. McGonagall assists, fascinated by the theory. In the Gryffindor common room, one rat glows bright silver. Ron's rat. Scabbers. Peter Pettigrew, cornered and exposed, transforms into a balding, watery-eyed man who tries to run. Snape stuns him. The truth comes out under Veritaserum. Peter confesses to betraying the Potters, to serving Voldemort, to framing Sirius. Sirius Black is exonerated. He's released from Azkaban a broken man. 12 years of Dementors aged him terribly. But when he sees Harry for the first time in the Hogwarts hospital wing, he weeps. You look just like James, but you have Lily's eyes. Merlin, Harry, I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you. It's not your fault, Harry says. You were in prison for a crime you didn't commit. I should have insisted on being secret keeper. Should have checked on Peter more carefully. Should have doesn't matter now. You're free. That's what matters. Sirius becomes a frequent visitor to Hogwarts, takes a house in Hogsmeade, slowly recovers his health and sanity with Madame Pomfrey's help and regular visits from his godson. Harry finally has family beyond Dumbledore. The pieces are falling into place. 10 years later, the headmaster's office looks much as it did when Albus Dumbledore occupied it. The same portraits, the same silver instruments. Fawkes still perches near the window, older now but no less magnificent. But behind the desk sits Harry Potter, age 21, the youngest headmaster in Hogwarts history. He's reviewing admission letters when a knock sounds at the door. Come in. Hermione Granger enters. Now Hermione Granger, Minister for Magic. She wears formal robes, but her hair is still as bushy as it was at 11, pulled back with a practical clip. Headmaster Potter, she says with a grin. Minister Granger, he replies in the same tone. To what do I owe this official visit? Actually, I'm here unofficially. Wanted to check on my favorite student. I'm not a student anymore. You'll always be a student to me. Remember when you couldn't brew a simple strengthening solution without setting something on fire? That was once, and I was 9. They laugh. Some friendships are unbreakable. Hermione sits in the chair across from Harry's desk, the same chair she sat in as a child when Dumbledore called them for lessons. How is he? She asks quietly. Well, happy, I think. He visits sometimes, though the portraits complain he's gotten lazy in his old age. On the wall, the portrait of Albus Dumbledore, painted 5 years ago when he finally stepped down as headmaster, opens one painted eye. I am not lazy. I am retired. There's a difference. You sleep 18 hours a day, Portrait Phineas Nigellus points out. I've earned it. Harry and Hermione smile. Portrait Dumbledore is as sharp as the real one was, just more prone to napping. The real Dumbledore lives quietly now in a cottage near Godric's Hollow. He's 73, no longer the most powerful wizard in Britain, but still brilliant, still kind, still writing letters to Harry and Hermione offering advice they rarely need anymore. He did it right, Hermione says softly. Raised us without making us weapons, gave us power but taught us responsibility, prepared us for war but let us have childhood too. He broke the cycle, Harry agrees. He was raised by fear after Oriana died, obsessed with control and the greater good. But he didn't pass that on to us. He passed on wisdom instead. Ron Weasley enters, now Professor Weasley, teaching defense against the dark arts. He's put on weight since graduation, but still grins with the same easy warmth. Minister, headmaster, am I interrupting? Never, Hermione says. How are your students? Terrified and thrilled. Turns out teaching is harder than fighting dark wizards. We could have told you that, Harry says dryly. They talk for an hour. Old friends, new roles. The war against Voldemort ended 4 years ago. Not with a duel, but with systematic Horcrux destruction and a final confrontation where Harry, Hermione, and Dumbledore worked as a trinity. Dumbledore wielded the Elder Wand. Harry confronted the fragment in his own scar through alchemical dissolution that left him unconscious for a week but whole. Hermione coordinated the legal framework that made creating Horcruxes internationally illegal, enforceable by magical contract. When Voldemort finally manifested in his weakened state, attacking Hogwarts in desperation, they were ready. The battle was brief, precise. Dumbledore bound Voldemort's fragmentary soul. Harry's willing sacrifice, stepping forward to die if needed, just as his mother had, triggered the same ancient protection. Hermione sealed it with her legal magic, forbidding Voldemort's essence from reforming anywhere under magical law. He dissipated, finally, permanently, and Dumbledore survived, scarred, exhausted, but alive. He attended Harry's appointment as headmaster with pride, watched Hermione's inauguration as minister with tears in his eyes, saw them succeed without needing to die for the greater good. That, more than defeating Voldemort, was his true victory. I should go, Hermione says, standing. The Wizengamot is voting on creature rights legislation this afternoon. Good luck, though you won't need it. Maybe not, but say it anyway. Good luck, Minister. She leaves. Ron follows, heading to his next class. Harry returns to his desk. Fawkes hops down from his perch and lands on the back of Harry's chair, singing softly. What do you think? Harry asks the Phoenix. Did we do it? Did we become the Phoenix heirs Dumbledore hoped for? You became more than I hoped. You became yourselves. Brilliant, compassionate, powerful without being corrupted by power. You transformed the wounds of your childhoods into strength. That is the truest form of Phoenixhood. We had a good teacher, and I had exceptional students. The cycle is broken, Harry. The mistakes I made, with Grindelwald, with Tom Riddle, with everyone I failed to save, they don't repeat through you. You're creating something new, something better. Harry looks around the office, at the instruments Dumbledore invented, now teaching tools for students learning alchemy, at the pensieve regularly used for history lessons, at the portraits offering wisdom from across centuries. This is his legacy now. Not defeating dark wizards, though he did that, but raising the next generation to be wise, kind, and powerful in equal measure, just as Dumbledore raised him. The Phoenix song swells. Outside the window, Hogwarts grounds spread green and peaceful under summer sun. The story continues, always rising, always transforming, always becoming. The Phoenix legacy lives on. The end.